Hey friends, I've been doing some thinking. I did a Celtic cross spread for myself, and I did a video of it. And the final card, the outcome position was death. And I've been reading for, like I said, a long time, and I never interpret that card literally to mean a physical ending, a physical death. I just don't believe that I have the ability to see those things. Maybe I can see the energy around it. But what I wound up discovering as I lived with that card at the end of that reading for a few days was that I was asking about this terrible state I had been in. I was in a really foul mood for about 6 weeks, and it seemed to never want to go away. And I wanted it done. And so the death card in that position seemed to really say, this is going to end. This will end. This too shall pass. So that felt like a really hopeful meaning. And that got me thinking about the dark cards in the deck and the way that we interpret them, the way that I interpret them. And that way back when I started reading, I decided there was no such thing as a negative card or even a positive card. In context, everything has its shadow side. You know what I mean? Like the Two of Chalices here from the Prisma Visions deck, it could indicate two people coming together in a union. It also could indicate enabling. We have two people toasting each other. The Two of Cups being a water suit and being cards of liquid. It could in a reading say, hey, you know what? Like, you two aren't healthy for each other. You're enabling one another with your drinking. Now, have I ever interpreted the card that way? No, but I opened the box and this was the first card on it, and I said, how can this be negative? A card that's almost always positive. And I looked at it immediately and I saw what looks like two people in a hot tub, and I thought, oh, that's kind of kinky. And then, oh, look, they're enabling one another. So there's a shadow side and a light side, or a positive or a negative side to all the cards. And what I wanted to explore with you this evening is the positive side of some of the darker cards in the deck. I'm going to get to death in just a moment, but I thought I would start with the Three of Swords because it is a card I rarely hear interpreted positively, although I think it has positive aspects to it. What I did was I actually printed out some pages from my tarot journal. My tarot journal isn't a diary. I love books. I love fountain pens. I love writing things out. But what I found in the years I've kept one is I like to add to it. And so I just have a Word document and I just put little notes in when I need to. But I wanted to reference it. So yes, over the years, right out of the gate, when I was learning, I learned that the Three of Swords is heartbreak. The Three of Swords is loss of love, grief, losing, all of those usual keywords that we hear with that card. And I've interpreted it that way, of course. Here we have 5 versions of it. This is the Shadowscapes, the Ellis, the Fountain, Prisma Visions, and of course the Universal Waitsmith. So we know the negative connotations of the Three of Swords. But what can the Three of Swords tell us that's like the negative of the Two of Cups or the Two of Chalices we just talked about? Well, here are some things that I've thought about over the years. This is not necessarily a positive thing, but I really more and more like to focus on the suit and try to keep the card connected to the element that it's in. So the swords are air, swords are thoughts, swords are intellect, they're communication, writing, messages. We have an expression in my company, everything communicates, and that to me is the Suit of Swords. And so, yeah, heartbreak, loss, but, wouldn't that fit in the Suit of Cups? Maybe I'm getting a little too rigid here, but, like, what opportunities does the fact that it's an air card, a swords card have? Well, what about, this isn't positive, but what about abusive self-talk? This is something that we can do to ourselves where we can work ourselves up and really devastate ourselves with abusive self-talk. Or, what my therapist says is don't write the script before it happens. It's like that thing of imagining all the worst possible things that could happen. That's one option. Another option that's much more positive is the idea, of like the old song that it hurts so good. Sometimes when... sometimes love don't feel like it should, y'all. Sometimes when we're in a relationship, we're starting a relationship, or or getting into something new, it hurts. It's scary in a good way. There may also be some sexual connotation to there too. If you're into a little something like that. What else did I write here? Um, Reviews. Maybe again, maybe it's not about like relationship heartbreak. Maybe it's about a bad review. You're a writer. You're an artist. Again, not positive, but um, I also like to think about this as um, again, sort of tied into love, the feeling of mortality, that sort of dawns on you when you realize you love somebody. I feel like I remember, I never felt more human and more vulnerable than, when I fell in love for the first time. So, we get the loss, the heartbreak, the unrequited affections, maybe, but there's more to it than that. It has some positive implications. It can hurt good. It also made me think of the Sacred Heart from my childhood education, which also makes me think of Tennessee Williams and whatnot. So anyway, like positive, or not necessarily like totally positive, but completely new ways of thinking about it by aligning it with the suit, by digging deeper into the dark cards and ruminating on it and spending time with them. Now let's get to the big daddy of all scary cards. We spend a lot of time as readers, especially if you're a reader like me, who's somewhat anxious and doesn't like thinking about his own mortality, about trying to explain away this card and its meaning of ending and loss and whatnot. And I think those things are there. When I did the reading for myself that I recorded, what I didn't say in my little intro was that shortly after I did that reading, within weeks of each other, two people that I'd worked with and really admired and enjoyed spending time with both passed away. And I don't think I was predicting that in the reading, but it did make me think about that energy. And I think that's there. But how can death be a positive thing? Obviously, ending something that's not healthy is a positive thing. But this card makes me think of Hamlet, and it makes me think of going on into the unknown. Hamlet says whether it's nobler to suffer in life, to suffer all those slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or end them. So there's a little bit of that in it, of like ruminating and meditating on mortality, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But even further than that, there's if you're familiar at all with the play Angels in America, there's a central character who, in the early days of the AIDS crisis, is basically up in heaven explaining to these angels that it doesn't matter that he's suffering, he wants to go on. And he says, and I'm paraphrasing Tony Kushner's words here, but we want more life. No matter what, we want more. It hurts. There are people in the world who are ill, and he talks about children in Africa with flies, laying eggs in their eyes, but we still want more life. And so in this card, yeah, we get that loss, but we also get that deep sense of wanting more life and pushing on despite all the nasty stuff we have to go through. All the things we suffer, all those slings and arrows of outrageous fortune that we go through, we still want more of it because we're just conditioned. We want more life. And so the other side of this card is that for me. It's like this card is its own other. It's about wanting more life despite all of that. And it's interesting that it comes so close to the middle of the major arcana, because it is, we want more life. And we keep going and we go through. This isn't the last card. It's in the middle. And so I think about that. And by the way, that more life comes from a translation of the Hebrew word for blessing, by Harold Bloom, I think. And I think it's amazing. So there's a little rumination on that card. And I didn't pull this card from all the decks. In fact, I didn't pull it from most of them. But I think even about the Five of Pentacles, which is another card no one really gets excited about seeing. Did I pull it? Yes, I did. No one gets excited about seeing this card in a reading either, because we view it as poverty. But what I have come to see as the light side of this card, in a way, considering the sort of, especially in the weight, especially here in the Fountain Tarot, the church in the background, what I think is that there's a nobility to this card, and choosing, for example, to go your path despite being shut out. You stand up for your principles in your life, and you take the harder road because you believe, in your cause. And so maybe you get shut out from the family, maybe you get shut out from the religion or whatever. And yes, it's not an easy path, but you do it anyway. There's also something here in choosing an ascetic lifestyle and choosing a lifestyle of poverty, or of um, missionary work, in helping the poor, for example. And so, really, what I'm doing in this sort of long, rambling discussion is just to share with you some of the darker cards. The Ten of Swords is another one, which, we associate with gossip. To me, it's a card of theatricality. It's a card of melodrama. It's a card of being a bit histrionic. Again, thinking about it in terms of a swords air combination, it could be just having too much coming at you. It could be too many words. It could be too many messages. This card could be email overload. This could be like coming back from vacation and there's just too much communication. It's needing a break from text messages and email and So again, like, think about the world of the suit. The Five of Cups always, the card now makes me think of Dracula. But again, there's a sense of theater here, but there's also a sense of meditation. Of focusing on. There was a great documentary on PBS about Buddhism, and I wish I could remember the person's name, but she talks about how Buddhism, this theory of non-attachment is, I have this glass and I love this glass and it's beautiful and I really am happy that I have it. And then someone knocks it over and it breaks and I'm devastated. But if I think when I get the glass that it's already broken, then every minute I have with it is beautiful. And so there's that in this card too. And so what I don't think about as much anymore is reversals and cards meaning the opposite of themselves when they're upright or reversed, but context and how the Nine of Cups can be about gluttony, and the Ten of Pentacles can be about settling for financial security over emotional security. And how death can be about wanting more life and going on. The Three of Swords can be about it hurting so good, and the Five of Cups can be about non-attachment. So anyway, I hope this is interesting, and I hope it's useful. My little kind of meditation on the darker cards. Let me know if it is. I hope it is, and let me know what your thoughts are. How do you engage with these? I hope you have a great week.